Where I'll be mysterious.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
No,
Hello!
no
Hello and
mystery
welcome
man.
to Rainbows and Razor Blades Productions, where chaos reigns in all of our content. Like Chad immediately before we're going live saying, I'm going to be mysterious and going back at Chad.
Much mystery. Ooh,
No one
wonder
knows
who you
who you
are.
are.
No clue.
Oh, there's the nameplate there. That ruins it.
Oh, whoops. My bad.
Hi, Michael. But yes, I am Kristen, and this is Chaos Commentary, and I'll throw it over to Kat now.
All right. So if you're new to this show or going to watch it later, this is the premise. It's to experienced and less experienced folks chatting about TTRPGs, and sometimes we have guests, like tonight, our friend and DM for At the Thresholds that airs on Thursdays tomorrow, Chad. What's up, Chad?
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna act like we hadn't been talking for a half an hour before we even started.
Right.
Like, you just got here.
Glad to be
Welcome.
here.
Tell us a bit about you, Chad.
All right. Um, where do you want me to start?
You don't have to start at birth. Maybe
Okay.
like, more recent times, or
Yeah.
a little bit about what
Um,
you do in life.
I guess broad strokes. I live in what we like to call, some people like to call the great state of Superior. Um, but I live in Duluth, Minnesota, on the shores of the Great Mother Superior. Um, and I don't want to live anywhere else because it's wonderful here. It's warm when it needs to be warm. It's cold when it needs to be cold, and it's mild every other time, which is how I like it. And there's no sharks to eat me, and I can still surf. I can surf on the lake, and there's no sharks, so that's good. Um, I am a former Army medic. I have my educational background is in experiential outdoor and environmental education. Um, and I used to be I've had a lot of different jobs. I've been a kayak guide, mountain bike guide. I've worked in breweries. I'm currently working uh, as a, I like to call myself a leather man, but I think my actual title is production technician. I work for a company called Frost River here in Duluth that is a small local company that makes canvas and leather goods like canoe packs and backpacks and
I
stuff
was
like that.
honestly thinking you were going to say leather daddy. I'm not
Me
gonna lie.
too. That's immediately what popped in my head.
Is that like a term? Is that like
That's a
a
BDSM term, yes.
You don't know what a
ah,
leather daddy is?
that's fair. I don't know what a
Uh,
leather daddy is.
I
Those aren't
will.
circles I'm into.
Okay, you continue
I'm
on.
too nice of a guy. I don't want to be hurt, and I don't want to hurt people, even if they ask me nice.
Here we go. I have pulled the definition from Google. Wherever it went. Where did it go? It says a leather daddy is a burly man who likes to wear leather, either as a subset of the BDSM community, a genre of gay sexual expression, or both.
Hmm,
Sorry, Chad. We took
fair
you on
enough.
an adventure.
Hey, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, I like
Now
to
you have
call
learned a
myself a leather
thing.
man because it sounds cool. But yeah, that's kind of general me. I like doing stuff outside. I like making things with my hands. I like adventure, right? Obviously, I was in the army. I like to, like I said, I like to surf. I like to do stuff. I like adventure. I like to go places and see things. I've been playing RPG. Well,
Here, we'll get
I
into
don't
the
know. Can
questions
you
with
ask me
that
some
then.
questions?
We
I'll
we
just be
wish
talking.
No, that was actually all interesting. The leather
It
daddy
was,
thing
yeah.
aside, it's those are cool things to know about you.
So, what got you into TTRPGs, and why was it a pact with an eldritch horror?
Hmm. Yes. Um, oh wow. I was actually thinking about this today because I knew you would ask me. Um, so
Like you've watched this show before or something.
yes. So my grandma, my mom's mom, um, was a big fantasy sci-fi reader. Um, and that's where I think where I kind of got into those kinds of books. I She gave me, I was gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna bust this out because it's really fucking cool, but I didn't pull it aside and I don't want to go get it. But I distinctly remember she gave me, I want to say it's like a 20th anniversary edition of The Hobbit, gold slipcase, gold embossed cover. And I read it and read it and read it and read it. Um, and uh, one of the big things for me as a person interfacing with fantasy stories and ultimately RPGs was I decrypted the runes on the cover of the book and in the book because I knew what some of them said because of things that were in the book, like, and and Bilbo reads this and it says this. And I'm like, okay, that's in runes. So then I like went through the runes on the book cover and stuff and like figured it out. And as like a fucking, I don't know, 10 or 12-year old or something, right? And I remember that was like I felt really good about that. And then I got into like other fantasy stuff, Conan, um, like John Carter of Mars, the greatest fantasy series of all time, the Sword of Shannara epic. I say greatest because it is. I don't know if it's really the largest, um, but I dare anybody to say that it's not because Terry Brooks is a god among men and has written so many books. It's not funny.
I am one of those people that I have to go back and reread books in a series when new ones come out to be like, "Oh, I need to refresh what I know." And I tried that
Mhm.
with his stuff, which considering you have to go back to before it's actually the lands of Shannara for the beginning of the story, I think I get through like 5 or 6 books and then I realize I still have 25 to go.
I know, right? Ah.
Nope.
I
One.
made a concerted effort. As of 2010, I was as of 2010, I was pretty caught up with like the main Shannara arc. I hadn't really read any of the before time stuff. I hadn't really read some of I think I read some of his modern stuff, which might have been some of the before times kind of yeah, it's fuzzy, right? But then I couldn't he like wrote like 6 books in 1 year, it felt like
Oh, and
and
they're
it was
all
like,
huge. Like none of
yeah.
them are less than like 300,000 words, I think.
Yeah, he's the Stephen King of fantasy. Um, but yeah, so I really started there. My dad, um, we didn't really watch. Well, I mean, I guess I distinctly remember going to see Willow in the theater with my parents, and that was fantastic. Um, my dad, we watched sci-fi and different movies. But be somewhere along the lines I found out, so I did model building, like airplanes, primarily airplanes, because I was always interested in airplanes as a kid. I'm still interested in airplanes. Who am I kidding? But I built a lot of airplanes, and somehow along the line I got into like the old Ral Partha lead and pewter minis, and I started buying those and painting them. I don't even really remember how or why. I probably just saw them at the store and was like, oh, it's like fucking Lord of the Rings or whatever. And then in we moved, so we moved to a new city in sixth when I was in sixth grade, and I was in elementary school for one more year because this new school district I was in had sixth grade elementary school instead of sixth grade junior high, which was what, it,
That's how it is a lot of places here. So
yeah. And so and then, so I didn't get along well with people there. Junior, I don't really remember junior high.
let me tell you,
Well,
because
I
we're
was
about the
only in
same
junior
age.
high
Junior
for
high
2 years.
probably sucked.
Yeah, I was only in junior high for 2 years because then we switched. It switched like
To
when
high school.
different grades were in things. So I was only in junior high for seventh and eighth grade
Mhm.
because when I was in eighth grade, the junior high and senior high switched so that senior high was ninth grade through 12th grade, and junior high was now sixth grade through eighth grade. So, but long way around. I got to high school and I I don't remember how, but I made some new friends randomly. Like I was probably sitting by myself at lunch, probably reading a fucking Terry Brooks book or something. And because I vaguely remember like my freshman year of high school, like getting probably got picked on. Um, and I ended up making friends with some people uh, who ultimately, well, actually, you know what? I'd take that back. A guy I knew in junior high, I think we played D&D once with his brother, like first edition AD&D. This is like 1990, 1991, 1991, probably 92. And we played it like once. I brought this really cool miniature that I had painted. I was like, I want my character to be like this. He had wings. He's like, there's really no way to do wings. I'm like, I want to do wings. I was on my mini. But then I met this other group in high school. Fast forward to high school, and then made friends with this group of people, and they played D&D, and I started playing D&D with them. We started like every week, every Wednesday. I think it was every Wednesday after school. We'd go right over there from school, eat dinner over there, and then, go back to our respective homes at like, whatever the fuck time we had to be home at. And it was fucking, and that's kind of where I got started. And I played with this shades of that group. I played D&D with into 2000 and I don't know, 7, and even a little bit after I got back from the service. I kind of played D&D with them, but they were really weird about it because I didn't have a car. And they were like, "Oh, we have to come pick you up." Like, I don't have a car. Fuck off. And then I stopped playing with them. And then they just kind of stopped calling me after I left when I moved. They're like, "Oh, you left." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I left before." Yeah, it was dumb. But yeah, and I never stopped playing games. Not a minute. In it to win it.
Well, so of all of the games you've played, which one's your favorite?
Oh man. I guess I don't know. Realistically, a lot of so I have a couple of different answers. My knee jerk answer to which game is my favorite is Shadowrun, hands down, 100%. Um, in the same time, that's also my least favorite game because mechanically it sucks in its current iteration. But as a world, I love it. I think it's super fun, and it like even just thinking about the cool narrative choices that they made when they wrote Shadowrun and came up with the concepts of Shadowrun, like get me hot and bothered. It's really I love it. Fantasy, it's sci-fi, cyber ninjas and ancient spirits. I love it.
All the
Um
stuff that you need.
I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a one-stop shop. Um but the system isn't what I want to play anymore. Like it's even like the old system is the old editions are probably crunchier than I want to play. Um, but I think as far as as far as system goes, like mechanically, my favorite system is probably Index Card RPG. Um, it's based in a system many of us know and love, D&D, rolling d20s, hitting a target number, same kind of stats. And it's dialed back in some ways, and it's kind of turned up a notch in other ways. And you can do a lot of different stuff with it. So I really like Index RPG a lot. A lot of times, if I say I want to run something, I probably want to make it work in Index RPG, and then I'll probably end up running it in fifth edition for some reason or whatever. Um, it's a fantasy thing. Um, but yeah, those are probably my those are my two big answers. And my favorite game that I haven't played is my third answer. I don't know if you were expecting a three answer deep, but here we go. My favorite game that
We'll
I
take it.
haven't played is a game called Symbaroum, which I'm sure the two of you have heard me talk about. And you
Should.
viewers, you should check out Symbaroum. It's by Free League, um, the wonderful Swedish uh, publication company, RPG publisher.
Yeah, they're
You're
awesome. They have a lot
killing
of
me.
good games.
No
My kid
spam
almost tried
risk.
to
Go away.
my kid almost tried
Um,
to do a run in on us right here.
yeah,
He
spam
came
risk.
hauling ass into
No,
the door.
Free League. Yeah, so it's by Free League, and it's a fantasy game with kind of a, I guess, not being Scandinavian, I would call it. It's got a little bit of a Scandinavian, European kind of twist to it. It's kind of a darker fantasy. Um, there's a lot of, if you've played some of, if you're familiar with things like Vaesen, there are some similar kind of archetypes and tropes. I think that kind of cross those games, but it's really a game about the conflict between civilized world and uncivilized world. And I think that's really interesting. As an outdoor educator, I think that's super interesting. As an environmentalist, I think that's super interesting. And ultimately, though, the art 100% sells it. Like the art, that game more than any other game I've ever seen makes me want to play it just by looking at the art to it. And that's the way
Yeah,
with a lot of the Free League games. The two of you and I
their
have
art
talked
is
about it.
amazing.
Yeah, hands down, there is no game company that I have seen. Somebody's going to prove me wrong. There is no game company that I've seen that's doing art on their level at all. Their art is on point. Their layout. Anyway, you know it. If you don't know about Free League, go check them out. On unsolicited plug for Free League.
Oh, they're fantastic. So they have a lot of good games. I keep talking about how excited I am about the Blade Runner game and how much
Blade
fun I
Runner.
have playing Alien and stuff. So, but I think the next question is yours, my friend.
If your favorite character or NPC you've played wrote an autobiography, what would it be called?
Oh man, uh, that's hard. That's a good question. That's a great question. So the real question is, who is my favorite character or NPC? I think my favorite my my favorite NPC I ever did was in my short-lived Eberron game, uh, pre-COVID, in my house, like ended in sometime mid 2019. Um, was I want to say it was a gnome, uh, but it was a tailor whose name was Hermione, but spelled like Hermione. but it's pronounced Hermione. And he ran a tailor shop of all bird prints.
Did they come with bird facts?
It was like they had to go to the players had to go to a formal event, and one like they had enough money to send one person. Although I think like two people ended up going. But they found like, well, we need to find a tailor shop. I'm like, all right, you find a tailor shop, and I don't know how it came out, but it's just Hermione's haberdashery. I don't remember exactly what the shop was called, but he bought it was like a suit, like a Victorian cut suit with little tiny chickens like embroidered on the suit fabric. He is my favorite NPC. He,
So now what's the autobiography called?
I don't know, suits to cluck in.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, actually, that's quite good.
uh,
All right. So, more
yeah.
weirdness. Dungeons or dragons?
Hmm. That's. Hmm. I was about to say dungeons because you can do so much with dungeons, and then I was like, yeah, but there's a lot of different kinds of dragons.
There's a lot of things you could say about a dungeon in general.
Yeah, I would probably say dungeons. Um, Dungeons over dragons. Just for versatility. Like, yeah, I can pigeonhole a dragon into any situation. Um, but doesn't need to be there. Is it gonna make sense? Are the party gonna survive? Whereas the dungeon, you can do all kinds of different stuff with. So I guess I would say dungeons purely for the versatility. Um, but dragons are cool too.
Now, imagine that you're Hermione and you come upon a crossroads. One direction leads to forest, one to a river, and the last to mountains. Which way do you go and why?
Oh, I have to answer this as Hermione? This is inside the DM studio.
Yeah, that's the whole point of interviewing people at DM. We just couldn't go with that because it kind of infringed on a few too many
It's a little
things.
too Shreve's a little
We
too close.
we just don't have that kind of money. So maybe
Yeah.
someday.
Um, that's a hard question. This was actually also a question I thought about today, sort of, for some reason, or maybe it was yesterday.
Because you knew we were going to put you in the
Um,
hot seat.
I know, right? I'm like, what kind of questions are they going to ask me?
Some bullshit questions. That's what.
That's hard. Because I like all three a lot, right? Some of my favorite places. Some of my favorite places are all three. Some of my favorite places are all three at the same time. Um, it's probably gonna be mountains though. I love the forest, or let's see, I love the water because I love to surf. I don't do it enough. Um, I love being out on the water. Um, I grew up obviously I live in Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota. Um, so the forest is a place I am uh mostly at home. I would say a civilized forest is a place I am mostly at home at. I can do what needs to be done. A real forest, a wood, A jungle? No. No, I'm not that guy. Um, mountains, I love mountains though. Mountains are super cool. I live on mountains. If normal people who live on mountains, if normal people who live on mountains come to Duluth and they're like, these aren't mountains. Like technically these are mountains.
They'd be mountains
It's
to
a
us. It's
hill.
flat here.
It's a
I mean, we
hill.
have a few
You know?
hills around us because they
Yeah.
don't. We call them mountains, but they're not really that big.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's
what ours
mostly flat.
are. But our mountains are like one of the oldest mountain ranges in America, which is why they're so small. Not as old as the Canadian Shield, which is a prairie, which used to be mountains, but has not been. Anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, I guess I would say mountains, because it's man when you're 3 to 4,000 feet up on the edge of a fucking valley and a thunderstorm rolls through beneath you and you're in like a blue sunny sky and a fucking thunderstorm rolls through beneath you. Holy shit, that is so cool.
Sounds really cool, except for the 3 to 4,000 feet on the edge of something part. That's
Yeah. It's stuff for
that's
everybody.
it's the heights thing. I just nope right the fuck out of that. You know, if it
Yeah.
was like this, like a plateau where it's open and there's lots of room, I don't think I'm gonna fall off. That'd be okay. That'd be cool. But no ledge stuff for me.
Yeah. I don't mind it if I'm
Heights
on my
are not
feet.
her thing.
If I'm driving,
Oh,
if I'm driving, it's probably fine. If I'm riding,
uh-uh.
oh boy.
Yeah,
When
no.
I was in China, we went up into the mountains, into the Himalayas. It was unbelievable. Um, and we took a bus back down out of the mountains. That's how
I've
you got
seen
in and out because it was like
pictures
a
of that.
and you're driving on a one track road. The bus is literally half a foot from a 1,500 plus foot cliff,
Mm-hmm.
and you can
Yep.
see boulders the size of duplexes that have fallen and crushed other houses. You're just like, oh, this is
Yeah.
so fucked.
Yeah. See, we have a lot of in the mountains here. We have the mountain roads that are like you can't fit two vehicles side by side on
Yeah.
these roads. And I've driven on them and it's pant shittingly scary just driving on them. I've been in the vehicle as a passenger and thought I was going to panic myself to death because
Yeah.
I'm afraid of heights. So you're up on this high road in a vehicle you can't control on a ledge and it's just straight down, you know. That's
Yeah.
that is
Number of
not
times
my
I've been on
life.
windy roads as a passenger with people I don't trust as drivers, especially growing up in Wyoming.
Yeah. The worst was we have this road called the Old Apache Trail, and it is barely wide enough for a van to fit on. Barely. And I know this because I was in the van with the worst driver in the entire fucking world driving these roads fast like a fucking asshole. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, I'm gonna die. And I was just so furious with him for not even being safe about it. When we got out, I nearly got into a fist fight with him because he was such a jerk about it. I was like, no, you don't drive on those roads.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that
As
was,
much as I love the other two, I'd probably choose mountains.
mountains are beautiful. Like I'll camp at
Yeah.
like the base of mountains and stuff, and like spend time, in that environment. Just you won't find me up on them too much.
That's
That's
right.
that's
Not for
yeah,
everyone.
no, it's not. No, but it's okay. Um, so
Love a good
let's go in. Huh?
love a good swamp.
So does Beetlebug.
Like a nice, like a nice cedar bog. I guess a bog isn't really a swamp. I like a good bog. Swamps are meh, but bogs are cool. Like a nice cedar bog or a nice spruce bog. Mm,
I mean, if it's cool, like maybe in the cooler months, but I couldn't imagine being around one when it's summer and you get, it's
The
humid.
bug.
the bugs and the swamp
Well, so
ass.
bogs, especially a lot of the bogs up here, not a lot of open water because it's
So,
all just plant matter and stuff.
so just like gooey plant matter everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you can walk around carefully. We went out to a few of them for some of
It
our
probably not end
environmental
well for
classes,
me.
and we would go looking for like very specific like plants that you know this plant exists in the desert or in Minnesota in a bog because the climate, the environmental conditions are kind of the same, which is super weird. I know
But
it
yeah,
sounds
that is
weird,
super.
but
It
it's
does
true.
because I live in a desert,
Yeah.
and I mean there are things that grow here that would thrive in an environment that is wetter, but
Wetter.
I, I could have said moister.
Moist.
Moist.
The key is with the bogs. It's the level of acidity and the type of nutrients that are found there. It's really tough. So you have
You have certain
certain
things that can survive.
yeah, you have certain characteristics of plants in deserts
Yeah.
that they have to like maintain moisture and
Oh yeah,
useful
because our
nutrients that plants and bogs have the same kind of things.
yeah, 'cause our ground here, our soil is despite being a desert, it's kind of a misnomer. Everybody thinks dunes, but the ground here is very hard,
Hmm.
and growing things is very difficult depending on what it is, unless you fertilize and whatnot. So um, that makes more sense than just the. It's in a desert and it's here.
Yep. Yeah. Everyone, you say desert, everyone's like the Sahara. And you're like,
Yeah,
no, not
no,
all
I mean
deserts are the Sahara.
we have dunes here, someplace further south. Um, I've never seen them in person, but I know they exist. But for the
Mhm.
most part, it's cactus and hard ground and tumbleweeds and a coyote, walking through your neighborhood and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
um, now nature aside, we we often talk about writing TTRPGs. Kristen and I published ours. You have ones you're working on. When you are writing your TTRPGs, what's your favorite part of doing that?
Oh boy.
We're out here asking the hard hitting questions
I
tonight.
know, right? Um, hmm. I think my favorite part of TTRPG writing is probably the same as like my favorite part of like playing games. Yeah, because uh, as you two know, and maybe as some of the people who are watching us know, I won't shut up about stuff. So like if I have a good idea that I'm working through, I want to work through it. I like to bounce like idea like Michael is constantly a sounding board like, hey, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about this? How about this? Um because I really love the collaborative process of game in this hobby. Um and that's probably my favorite part of writing for the hobby as well. Because the rest of writing for the hobby is really stressful because for me for me especially, and this is something I think about all the time, you know, I'm always like, this is ultimately being a writer is probably the third thing I've wanted to be the longest in my life. Fighter pilot, a dinosaur, a writer, right? Right?
What dinosaur
Uh,
though?
yeah, Triceratops, absolutely.
All right, solid choice.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but it's like because I see things that I like and I want to do it right. So I ingest novels and stories and I want to do it. I ingest games, I want to do it. I ingest board games, I want to do it. And I really, it's I've gotten to do it now. I've published one adventure and I'm working on more stuff, and I'm excited about writing, but like it's super stressful because I think about it. I'm like yeah, okay, like if I'm gonna write something like the adventure I wrote and published, um, is for fifth edition, right? And I love, like, I won't say I love, I really like fifth edition D&D, um, but at the same time, because of the way I am and some of the um I would say industry discussions I ingest, and kind of the circles that I the circles of people I listen to, very high-minded, modern kind of RPG thinking. I'm like, doesn't suck, but it sucks. Like why? Why does it have to be like this? Like all of these things, like writing a module or an adventure in the way that D&D modules have been written since the beginning of time and are still written to this day doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
That's why we went and
Um,
wrote our own just whole from
yeah,
scratch.
yeah.
Because, like, we could have written it on another rules light system that's out there for modification.
Make
But
your own rules.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
who cares? Make your own.
But and so that's stressful because it's a lot of weird, like especially when you're writing for something like D&D, um, you're like, okay, if I'm writing in this kind of scenario, how does this challenge shake out? And then you're play testing, and you're moving numbers around, and you're seeing how people respond and where the roles fall, and how people build their characters, and and you're like, okay, this makes sense. But really, I think I think this is the hard part for me, is really what we're saying is this makes sense in the context of the single instance of D&D as a written work. But everybody who I think really plays D&D at a good level doesn't pay any fucking attention to that shit. And there's people who do, I think people in I think people who, and I don't know because I haven't really done a lot of like Adventurers League, right? But I think people in like organized play scenarios, they're probably cleaving a little closer to an adventure as written. Oh, hi, bud. It's cat time. This is Mace
Ah,
Windu. He's my
hi, Miss
best friend in the
Windu.
whole world. Um, and so I see myself writing, and then I see myself writing through the lens of like hyper modern, kind of high minded RPG design thinking. And I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? And then I can't write for like a week. And then I get back in, I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up. Just do it. I even even D&D game prep, I do that. I'm like, I want to do this thing. And I want, like, and D&D says to do it this way. And my players, because I know my players pretty well, don't give a shit about that. And I want to do it this other way. Hey, where can we all meet? I'm just like, fuck.
I mean, to be
But
fair, even just trying to run a module, the 1 or 2 times that I've attempted to do it and not just do homebrew my own stuff, I can't follow it. Like,
uh,
will have some parts of it, and then I go back and I, like, reread it after I've run it, and after about a third of the way in, it looks nothing like the module.
yeah,
See, no, I haven't run any modules because, again, I've only run one game. But my viewpoint on it would probably be that I'd take, like, whatever you're going to use, like your stats and stuff, use those as your base, and then the story of the module, and then everything else just out the window. I'd probably just read the story and
yeah,
be like, that sounds like a cool story. Let's play in that story, and then take everything else from where we're comfortable. Like,
yeah.
I
And
don't
I think that's definitely a good way to do those.
see me thinking, having not looked through a lot of ancillary D&D material, since it's the game I play the least personally. Um, I didn't even know that there was more to it than here's a story that you play within this world, and you may have this, and this class extra, and that's it. You know,
Mhm,
it sounds like it's much more intense than it probably needs to be at
mhm.
a base level. So, but
It's
that is my impression.
yeah, and it's definitely like running modules. I feel like it's definitely something every DM, if you're playing D&D, you should do at least once, whether it's a short module or like one of the official like hardcover book adventures. Um, barring certain ones, and we don't need to get into why I think some of them are dumb, or some of them are really good. But it kind of curates an experience of D&D in a generally in a good way. And I know like reading when I got fifth edition, I had followed along with the playtest stuff as it was coming out, and I was super hyped about it. And you know, and I got the Court of the Dragon Queen or whatever. You know, and I ran part of it, and then it kind of died. That game died, but reading it really kind of helped me get into like what fifth edition is more than like reading the player's handbook. Because at that time, you know, we didn't really have, you know, Critical Role was, I don't even think out at the time, or was just coming on to Geek and Sundry. And I wasn't into Acquisitions Inc. at the time yet, but yeah, and that's kind of the hard part for me is kind of considering all of that kind of stuff. Um, and the hard part with like D&D, like there's such a set community, there's such a way of things. As I said, the way D&D modules are written right now are pretty much the same way they've been written since the 70s. There's very little difference in how information is written and presented. And is it the best? I don't know, but it's the way it's done. And if you try to do something that's a little different, it's either going to go over fairly well or nobody gives a shit, right? It's, you know, it's because people are used to reading things a certain way. And when you start to try to present information to somebody in a different way, some people are going to take to it and a lot of people aren't. And if you're trying to make, I know everyone says this is a weird hobby, you know, you can't do it as a business. It's a hard whatever. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're publishing material, you're trying to make money. Like, don't fucking bandy words with me. Yeah, it's your hobby, but you're trying to make money at it. So if you want to make money, but at the same time, we're artists, right? Um, but
I'm over here
yeah, I
of the
like
mind
the
of fuck the rules because I've
yeah,
run into enough people that are sanctimonious about the rules and they get all up in their panties in a wad about it. I'm just like, don't care.
oh
Bye.
yeah.
You know?
That's why I have a hard time with Genesis. Oh, Kyle, I'm sorry if you're watching this. Um, but so Genesis is a game from originally from Fantasy Flight. Now I think it's owned by Edge Studios. It's a corporate sales. But it's a narrative dice system. So they have fancy dice that have different symbols on them. And based on what you roll, you get gradients of success, and then the ability to trigger narrative elements, which is cool. It's a different mindset of a game. Um, but my problem with Genesis is listening to the high end guys who are now work for the company, but had been like community writers for a long time, and even people that worked at Fantasy Flight writing Genesis and running Genesis. They talk about Genesis in a way that says they do not use most of the rules for the game that they write the rules fucking for. Like I'm all for the rule of cool, but if you're gonna make something, use the fucking thing that you make. Because it makes me not want to play your game if you don't use it. If you don't use it properly,
And why is it
it
there?
annoys me. Yeah, well, yeah, you know,
I
it's
mean,
like the big criticism with a Descent into Avernus, a big go to hell and do Mad Max style road rages. Nobody it's a royal nobody. I'm sure some people did, but like anytime I've ever heard of anybody officially playing D&D of D&D people using that module, they never use the vehicle rules. They don't, because they they're not conducive to good play. they're they're clunky, you know. Somebody's gonna at me, but I don't care. Whatever. I'm just a small fry here. I'm wearing my Dwayne the Rock Johnson t-shirt, so fuck off. But
Because
yeah, like if
elbow.
you're gonna write something, make it good, make it useful, and use it. You got to fake the funk, guys. Our other RPG writers out there. But yeah, anyway, at the end of the day, I love the collaborative process, and I try to make, and you two are learning that now, that I want to collaborate with people. I want to be a part of a group. If I'm doing stuff on myself, I'm just gonna sit in my room and play Minecraft. I'm not gonna do this work.
I mean, you'd
That's
have
the
fun with
honest
the
truth.
kids.
Yeah. I want to play games with people, and I want to write games with people. Um, because
Well,
yeah.
in that same vein, what is your favorite well of inspiration for either game writing or game prep?
I have a number, if that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
so my current kind of big thing that I've been pulling a lot of ideas from, is a book series, um, that I don't know if there's a name for the overarching series, but I will just call it the Malazan, I will call it epic. It's a book series, written by, as a whole, written by a guy named Steven Erickson and Ian Esselmont. And it started off as a movie pitch, and then nobody picked up the movie in the like late 80s, early 90s. Nobody wanted it, and then they were like, okay, fuck it, we're gonna write it into a book series. And it was based on our their tabletop RPG game or whatever. And it's a big, like, I describe it as, what if Michael Bay directed a military fantasy epic? Like, it is big. Oh, like, we're talking like big, over the top. Like, there's scenes where there's armies clashing, and there are battle wizards just, you know, football field size areas of like poison mist just decimating entire ranks of enemies, and that kind of this huge, over the top, but really bold and big and heartfelt characters.
Battle
um
Wizard sounds like some sort of like crazy B movie you might find buried on YouTube somewhere, like a
uh,
fan film.
or one of my favorite card games.
Or that.
Yeah. The was it Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards of Skull Mountain, I think is what it's called. Oh, it's like Rat Fink
Oh,
style art,
nice. That's
but it's
great.
like it's glorious.
The art
Um,
sounds cool as hell.
yeah, Will Wheaton does a playthrough of it on like tabletop from back in the,
Okay,
I
now
think
I
it
know
was
what you're
when it was
talking about.
fun. Yeah. But anyway, that's kind of been a big, it's like, I think he just wrote a new he just released a book earlier this year that is, I think, the sixth series in the series. The first book series was 10 books long. And then there's been like 2 to 4 book series both authors have written about this setting and this world, and it's great. And I draw a lot from that because they have really interesting ideas, and narrative about how, specifically about how divinity works, and the relation of the divine to mortals, which is always a thing that's really kind of been interesting to me. Um, and then just other cool, as a vet, other cool army stuff that's in there. Um, so that's been kind of my big kind of well of ideas recently, from kind of like from a modern culture kind of aspect. Um, but I guess otherwise, like of old, like mythologies, primarily like Norse and Celtic mythology, um, and and then also like uh Japanese and Southeast Asian kind of culture and mythology because I'm super into mask culture and mask spirituality. I think is super interesting, and it's not something ultimately may have been something that happened in the places where our peoples are from, but not in anybody's recorded history.
I still
But
remember
I
the day
find
you
it,
went on that rash of sending me masks from Etsy, and I'm like, "Dude, I don't have the money,
I
stop."
know, I know. Um, but yeah, those are things like I'm primarily of Norse and Celtic heritage, and so those things
Same.
have always run real true to me. And the way, especially like the Norse, the way their stories were written down are very very like if you read the tales of the Icelandic family sagas, like they're fucking D&D games,
Well,
like
and they always had an oral tradition,
yeah,
until the Christians came through, and so anything that's written down that we actually see is what Christians were
it's
told
from
of the
later. Yeah,
stories. And,
yeah.
I know that some of that's been edited from what they felt they could write down, but yeah.
um yeah, those are big, but I pull from a lot of stuff, like I'm um and a lot of it mythologically speaking, like I I can never ring super true to like cultures of stuff, and it gets to be a little problematic, especially nowadays. If I were to try to do like, I'm going to write this and this is obviously based on the Hopi Indians, and you're like,
Yeah, I
i
can't.
i'm a white guy, I can't do that. um and there's ways to do it, um but hiring cultural sensitivity writers costs money, and realistically somebody who is of that culture should probably do it. But like there's a lot of good stuff that you can pull, and that I pull from all every especially mythology and the interaction of the divine to the mortal, because that's it's what fantasy is at the end of the day. Like even Lord of the Rings was the interaction of the divine and the mortal. um we're fucking superheroes with swords and capes, swords and cloaks instead of capes and fists and laser eye beams. Okay, that's that.
All right. Well, we're getting towards an hour here. So if I want to ask one more. So
Okay.
speaking of writing, now you have your game that is
Yep.
tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's at the threshold. That's the picture is in the bottom box below, Chad. So with writing, you actually came up with your own mechanic. And it's this really cool coin here.
Mm-hmm.
So which I've been fidgeting with all stream. This is my new fidget toy, actually. I will sit here and fidget with this the whole time I sit here. So explain the coin. Like, how did you come up with this and what does it do?
Oh, how did I come up with it?
We're getting good today.
So
It's
yeah, I
awesome.
know, right?
We're
So
making you think and dig real deep.
so we'll have to I'm gonna back up a little bit, right? So if anyone's watching who hasn't watched At the Threshold, check out our stream At the Threshold. But At the Threshold is a game, my D&D game. I'm using, god damn it, Dungeon Master Ty, between two Hermiones. That's amazing. Um Uh, so at the threshold, I'm using the micro setting, although it's becoming a little macro as he writes more, but the micro setting PDF that Mike Shea, aka Sly Flourish, has written and released on his Patreon, which is, if uh, unsolicited plug, if you're not a Patreon person of Sly Flourish, do it. It's like $2 a month. It's worth maybe five. It's worth it 100%. Um, but the setting, the City of Arches is set up so that ultimately the adventurers have come to the city via magical gateways, and the transport through those gateways wipes their memory. Um, in kind of a Jason Bourne way. Like you remember how to be a fighter, but you don't remember why you're a fighter or where you came from or why am I a giant Etten? Am
Or
I
you
good or
suddenly
bad?
don't realize why you don't have to eat or breathe.
Right. Yeah.
Why am I dead?
Um, am I,
That seems like quite a
um,
crisis.
Team emotional support undead.
right. And so he wrote into the game that there's an organization in the game that gives people gift baskets when they come through the archways. And the gift baskets include artisanal soaps and cheeses and some other stuff. Um, and I like, there's a good part of me that hates that, right? Part of me that is like very, like, like I want my D&D game to be a dirty, like old school D&D game. But another part of me is like, no, that's fucking amazing. That's good writing. It's great design.
This is how amazing it
Um,
is. Along with the Maker's Coin, he sent all of the players
that's what
and
I'm
the
getting to that.
producer.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. So yeah, so I was like, hey, I want to make gift baskets for everybody because I decided I wanted to be super extra.
That leather
And then I was
smell.
like, I'm gonna
I know
make
that was
gift
cool.
baskets for everybody. So I made everybody a dice holder. Um, like I learned how to hand sew so I could make that one that Cat has. I taught myself how to like
With
stitch
dice and
leather and
stuff.
stuff. Um, and I was thinking about different things that I wanted to send with them. So I got dice and I found artisanal soaps. I didn't send artisanal cheeses because I didn't want to try to mail that.
It's summer.
Um,
It would have ended badly. Like if
yeah,
you'd done it in December, it'd been all right. Yep, there's the soap.
yeah. Um, and
Alas.
and I made a brochure for the city.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. And some
and
stickers just because.
oh, those stickers were part of our pen pal program.
Oh, that's right. My bad. We got
Yeah.
extra stickers because we're special.
I
Hopefully, none
see
of our
those
players
are
are
now
watching.
sitting in the middle of the front of my laptop because it's mine, 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 mine.
Yeah.
Okay, if any of the At the Threshold players are watching this now or later, the stickers were from a whole different other thing we were doing. So
Most
ignore that.
everything.
Just, yeah, don't pay attention. Enjoy your dice bag
Um,
and your soap.
and like when I run games at home, I like to have when I run say fifth edition games at home, I like to have um like an inspiration token. At one point, I had bought a bunch of the same color dice. So I had like gold or yellow, bright yellow D20s. And if you had inspiration, you got to hold on to that D20 and then you could roll it when you use your inspiration. Um, and I had been looking at inspiration coins um, on the internet to buy, like when I was coming up with this idea, and they're expensive. They're not necessarily cheap. If you want a nice one that has some weight to it, um, and and I don't remember exactly what it was. There was a book I was reading, but I was like, what if oh, I think I was having a conversation with somebody about like different things to do, why inspiration is dumb and different ways to do like a concept like inspiration or something like that. Because there's so many different ways that people have made to do it. Um, and I don't care. It's fun. Um, but then I got the idea to have it be what it is now, as this coin. I was like, okay, I can get I can get these coins that that you have, and they're from Norse Foundry, and they were like $12 for I think like a pack of like 10 or 15 of them or something like that. It was really affordable. Um, and I was like, okay, these are cool. How can we use these? And yeah, and I kind of came up, and that's kind of where it happened. And then to get to what they do, um, so they can be used in two ways. You can use them to, instead of making a d20 roll, you can toss the coin.
I'm the
Uh,
only one that has done this so far, and it was before we
yeah.
got these, and I had a D2, and I went to toss it, and I launched it into my closet.
We're never gonna see that again.
I
I
found
know,
it. It
right?
was it was landed right on top of something, so I did not lose
Nice.
it.
Okay, because I'm like, RIP to your dice there.
Um, oh, I just remembered where I came up with the idea from. But I'll get back to that. So you can spend them in one of two ways. You can use it before you make a dice roll, a d20 roll, to flip the coin instead of the dice roll, either getting heads or tails, aka either a critical success or a critical failure. So you have a 50-50 shot to do something either really awesome or less awesome, a lot less awesome. Even
AKA
if
your
it's
thoughts.
not a situation in fifth edition where critical success or failure is normally an option, right? Because technically in fifth edition, only combat rolls can be, only attack rolls can be a critical success. Well, whatever. I think that's silly. Um, or because I also do like the we could say ambiguity of more modern systems where you have a more sliding scale of success, gradings of success versus a binary system, which is what D&D is. Ultimately, D&D is just a pass fail, right? Um, but I like a non-binary system when it
Like, no.
works. I don't. I was going to make a not a bad joke, but maybe a less tasteful joke. Ugh. But I like a non-binary system when it works, and some of them are too weighty. So I wanted to do something that can be useful. So you can also spend the coin to either turn a failure into a fail forward or a success into a success with consequences. So if the enemy succeed, if your enemy succeeds on a check, whether it's an attack roll or a skill check or a saving throw, you can activate the coin to elicit some consequences to that success. Maybe it's a boon for the party, or another compounded negative for or a compounded negative for the enemies, or and vice versa on either side. Um and ultimately, I'm gonna be honest, I don't necessarily expect I didn't want to use it. I don't want to use it for myself, which is probably a mistake. And I say that because if I use it, then the players will see me use it and will remember that it's a thing. Because if I don't use it, and this isn't a hard and fast rule, but most of the time, if you're if it's a new thing that you're trying to introduce to your players, they're not going to interface with it because it's not something they're used to.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought it was cool, and it linked to, and I'm hoping that in with streaming on Twitch, the audience can grant these things to players and stuff, and maybe that will help. And if I am always like, hey Chris, you should remember to use one this session, so then everybody
Well,
else,
I
or
already used
Michael,
mine, and I don't have one now,
I
so
know, yeah.
tell Michael to use his.
um but
Is it like a one and
yeah,
done use
so
kind of thing?
yep, yeah, so it's kind of like advantage. I made it as a magic item in D&D Beyond. Um, because since I wanted to make it as a real world artifact and have a game mechanic, might as well make it as a magic item. But I wrote into D&D Beyond, the only way to refresh your charge on it is to have the audience buy one for you. So
Oh,
I like broke the fourth wall in D&D Beyond.
I like that. See, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So
Um,
if you give us money, she can get her coin back,
right,
is what we're
right.
saying.
I think it's only
No,
$3.
Yeah.
it's
But
half a Starbucks coffee if you can live without it.
$3 is what randomly got some gold for some weird drinks.
oh,
Yes, get everybody drunk in game.
that was funny.
Yes.
You randomly get, what was it, like 100 gold or something? That was good.
Surprise.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I got the ultimately I think I came to the idea for that coin in going back to the Malazan series. There is a brother sister deity pair, um, collectively called Opon, and they're the gods. They are one of the gods of fate, and I never remember which one is which, but one of them is the push, and one of them is the pull. So you have like the push of destiny versus the pull of destiny, and I I want to say the push is generally not good, and the pull is usually not bad. And they're kind of like I mark is a coin, um, and yeah. So I think that's kind of I channeled a bit of that idea when I came up with that coin.
It's really cool. And I appreciate the
Thanks.
the thing to sit here and play with while I'm
Yeah.
because if you've watched anything I'm on, I'm super fidgety on stream and I really try not to. So I try to occupy my hands. So I just sit here and fidget with the coin and then I don't move as much.
Unlike
It
me, who's
helps.
constantly all over the place and
You
knocking into
sit
my
still way more than you think you do. Like I see you like on all the streams. I look at you 5 days a week on stream, and you sit still way more than you think. But I catch myself in the corner
Yeah.
of my eye, like on the Twitch stream, and I'm like, why am I moving right now? I'm not doing anything. Anyway, no, but I do like the mechanic. I think that was really clever.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to tell us more. I was curious.
Yeah, that's the story of that. And then in world, they're linked to kind of the idea of the dwarves. Like the dwarves
passion
are,
makers.
yeah, we I call them the makers, and they're like super mysterious and really don't come around a lot, and
And
have
the entire
weird,
party is kicking themselves because none of us took Dwarvish as a language.
yeah, which I'm probably gonna work into like there's probably a narrative reason for that,
Well,
like,
after, like, getting my wheel full, because the other cool mechanic you're doing is, like, giving, like, a little clock or wheel where there's, like, a pieces of the pie and you can do
yeah,
stuff, like, I'm working towards, half proficiency or whatever in perception. The next thing I'm gonna work on is learning Dwarvish.
nice. Uh,
That's cool that you
and
give them an
I
option to be able to learn.
I need to crack down on that, um, because I want it to be like during downtime, like
We
during
really haven't had
downtime.
downtime recently.
You did well, yeah. So we
We
had
had
downtime once, and it kind of like became a yeah. It's okay. I'm not worried about it. It's fine.
Then there was
But
a string of events that, because
yeah,
technically I think we're on what, like episode 7 or 8, and we're
we're going
only
into
into
episode
like
8.
day 3.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been long ass days.
Well, and that so the original intent when I was like, "Hey, we're having this downtime," was that was going to be a week, but then people just rolled into it was a day, and I went with it because that's what you do sometimes, and it's fine. But
I mean,
I want to be more intentional about when you can do those actions.
yeah.
Um, just I'm just saying it now because it got brought up, and I have been meaning tell you about it.
I mean, I
So
think
here we are.
in Cyberpunk we've only covered like a day or two maybe with all of
Yeah.
our adventures because everything happens so fast. We've not really had downtime. I think the most downtime we had was our side adventure in the food court.
Yeah.
And that's I think the closest we've had to downtime the whole trip. This
With
whole game.
Yeah,
We're like,
no, it's been one day because
yeah.
it's like going into an extra long uh into the night for when you were supposed to get back up topside, but it was just the morning that you guys met
Wow.
at Dulcie's. And then
that Obscura needs a fucking nap.
Right?
she got a little bit
Between
of a nap when she was knocked out.
that doesn't count as a nap. And she spends the rest of the time wrangling her nitwit brother with his intelligence of 2.
Yeah. The 3-year campaign I was in before COVID was 3 years. It was a week and a half.
A
We'd
lot
be
happens in a week.
and we
Better with
didn't know. We
Antenna.
didn't know. We brought it up one time. We were like, "Oh, blah blah blah. How long has it been? It's got to been like blah whatever." And the DM's like, "Dude, it's been a week." Fuck. What? Really? He's like, "Yeah, it's
I
been a
mean,
week."
honestly, I feel like he was foreshadowing what 2020 was going to be like because it felt like 3 years in
Right?
one. So
Yeah.
I've been a little better with Artena about like actually keeping on time because of long rests and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And
the story in Cyberpunk hasn't lent itself to doing that, is
yeah,
really what it
no.
is, because we started in one place and it's just been go, 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 and just that
Yeah, at
taking
this
that
point,
minute to
it's
eat.
almost like each hour that we've played has been like an hour in real time has been an hour in game at this
Yeah.
Yeah,
point.
or several. Like, I mean, the prison thing, getting off the prison
Yeah.
island and whatnot. That was a few hours in one game, but nonetheless, like it's the way the story has gone hasn't really lent to that. So I think we kind of took the opportunity when Lobo was like, "Is there fish there?"
It's hard to do. It's a big like
But I also absolutely love how much time we've spent down in Ignotus because it's my favorite place I've ever created in a game.
It's cool. It's really fucking cool. I really like it. It would be cool to see what else we can get into down there in a later time. But
Right.
yeah.
first to have people to kill.
Yeah. Yeah, the time thing is tough. It's like you have to be real intentional about how like on both as players and as the DM.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot as a DM, but also I think also as the players. Like I think players are gonna default, not every player, but a lot of players are gonna default to like minute by minute. Like I'm trying to default to like hour by hour. Like I'm trying to go slow, and then like
Yeah, it's hard though too. When
Michael or Ashley or somebody's like, where it's nope. It's like this is what I do. Like this 15 minutes later, I'm doing this. I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not gonna say no."
it's hard too sometimes though, because when you're like in the moment and you're doing your RP, that's there's it's not really a time jump situation. That is
Right.
going to be minute by minute. Like you're
Yeah.
having that conversation. You're
Mhm.
doing that thing. So you can't really just, oh well, you started to do the thing and now it's 2 days later. That
Right.
it. So there are points where you can't get around it anyway. So you might as well just
Yeah.
go with it.
But I do love
And
the
there are
level of RP we have in all of the games on the channel.
yeah.
And
Oh,
just
yeah.
like the interactions between the players and with the NPCs. It's been really great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool.
Everybody is fantastic. Across every game, the RP is just
I
kiss.
My
credit
moment
Tim.
last night of saying, "What if I want to be ruined beetle?"
It's
Easily my best
fucking
moment in a game.
glorious.
See, I am learning, and I was talking to Kristen about this a few weeks ago, I think now, that I used to be the player like many players in home games where it's like, oh, I do the thing, roll a couple of dice, and then you don't really like RP it much. Now I'm learning to like come out of my shell and do that part of it because I have fun with it. I really enjoy the idea of it, but I'm not typically the most like, it's not outgoing. I
Verbose.
can't.
person as
Well,
a
no,
character.
oh no,
I
I
mean,
can
the same
talk like a
character.
motherfucker. Or even in characters, it's not a matter of being verbose. It's just me in my head and coming out with the character. I see it as I see it and being confident enough and comfortable to do it.
Yeah.
So it's been like kind of a journey, but I credit in Cyberpunk, I credit Tim with helping me because he gives me something to play off of.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
Mhm.
helped me
absolutely.
learn how to do it a little bit better. So hopefully I'm doing my character justice, but it, that's been like huge. Like he came to me with the idea and I'm like, cool. And we started playing it. I'm like, oh, this is easy. This is fun, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah,
we have
having
a lot
someone
of
to
good
bounce
players.
off of is fantastic.
Yeah, we've got a good rapport too. Even after a game one day, I was like, if I'm going too hard on you, let me know. And he's like, no, I love it. It's great. Like, so, it's good. So it's been very helpful for me. So,
Oh yeah.
but we have tons of great players, and I'm so happy with all the people we have. It's great.
I'm just excited to get Cat into a game I'm running and to get back into a game where Cat and I are playing together and to play in a game that Cat is running.
All of which are options. Yes.
Yeah. I have had the full experience of Kristen and I want the full experience of Cat.
Okay. You have asked for that.
Oh,
We'll figure that one out. So
Yeah.
you just got to let me
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what you want to do.
Oh, I will.
but thanks for coming on to chat with us
Yeah.
tonight, Chad, and talking all the fun stuff. And thanks to everybody who has stopped in to talk with us. Tell us, Chad, where we can find you and what you got going on. Also, like cool stuff you're doing that maybe we won't see, like your arts and craftsy stuff.
Yeah. I do. I did want to talk about. I haven't really talked about it, but I want to talk about that real quick too. So to anybody in the world, I haven't really talked. Outside of us, right? Um. So first off, yeah, you can find me on Twitter at RealCMG. I'm on Twitch as North Shore DM. Um, and I have just recently started opened an LLC, a business for myself because I want to write and publish myself. Um, and it turns out I want to make stuff now too, thanks to making stuff for these hooligans. Um, and so my company is called Raven Writ, WRIT, Raven Writ Games. Um, and Yeah, I'm really kind of I had been working on a mission statement tagline that I don't have in front of me and I don't have it complete yet, but um ultimately I'm making and writing RPG and RPG related accessories, um
Propane and propane accessories.
yeah, exactly. Um kind of with I guess I would say with a nod to northern traditions, we could say. Um, the the dice bags, primarily the dice holding accessories that I'm going to be making, are all all of the body materials are all from are either recycled or upcycled or cast off materials from the like local craft and pack industry, leather and canvas primarily. Um, I'm really interested. Recycling and using stuff that other people aren't using anymore is wonderful. Um, and trying to do things, and I'm trying to make things that I don't see other people that are doing. I guess. In that way. I don't have any other than the things that they have. I don't have anything to show you, but I wanted to talk about it. Um, I have a writing project that I just started that I don't want to give a lot away about, but it might involve everybody that's on screen right now. It does. I'm
Yeah,
I'm super excited about it.
it's gonna be fucking cool.
Um,
I'm excited too.
yeah.
I think it'll be neat. I
Um,
have ideas.
hell yeah. And I started a blog a while ago as Raven Root Games, ravenrootgames.com. I've written like 3 blog entries. I have like 4 half written. I've been super busy sewing and learning about sewing, and I just haven't written any more blogs, but I want to get back into that. I'm going to have a shop get up at some point once I get a good production line set up. Um, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm super excited to make stuff. I'm super excited to learn how to make things that hopefully people will want to buy and be able to offer different things and write and write um and maybe outside of the box things, maybe not outside of the box, but different interesting tactile things. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Uh, so
Huzzah!
look forward to more information when I'm coherent and have a dope logo that I'm paying someone to make. Um,
Can't
that I'm
imagine
really
who that would be.
I'm really excited about it. I don't even know anything about it. I just know that I love her and her work, and so it's probably going to be amazing. So,
I hope
um,
so.
but yeah, yeah, that's that. Yeah, I run at the threshold. And you can find me on any of the Wednesday shows here when they let me come on. Michael was like, you should be on next week so then I can watch it." I said, "I don't know. What the it's not my show, but I'll be on as often as they let me." So, because Kat and I were on last week and I had an absolute blast.
That
Aside
was a good
from
time.
the fucking m- gremlins, the tech gremlins, but
Ah, dude,
yeah,
I was
I
like
just
ready to
love,
spit fucking fire by Friday
yeah,
night. But obviously I fixed them because here we are.
you
Yay!
did. So yeah, that's me. That's what I've got going on. Um, so hopefully by this fall, I'll have information and products for sale, and teasers about some writing projects. So
Well, you can come back
yeah,
on here and shill all of that stuff.
look, yeah. If you're not shilling, are you really in the game to win it?
But to
No.
be honest, I ran out of ideas for doing stuff on curiosities, so having other people to jump on is clutch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's what we're here for.
Yeah. I just like to talk about our hobby and hang out with the two of you. So
Is
I'm
always a good time.
yeah, I'm locked in, so you're stuck with me now.
Oh shit. Is it that I'm stuck with you or are you stuck with me? Because I don't know who's getting the worst end of the bargain here, sir.
Yeah, we're all mad here. So
It's true. But yes, check out his game that he's running tomorrow right here at 5 p.m. Kat, tell us about you and what Friday night holds.
Well, I'm Kat. I'm me as Autumn Knox on Twitter. And Friday night holds Somno Mixtere, our cyberpunk game where I play Obscura, the Netrunner, who has a lovable and very sweet and very murderous dim-witted brother that I have to wrangle, and along with our other fantastic cast of characters. It's a good time. I've been really having a lot of fun with it. We were off last week because of the said tech gremlins. And this week, we have 2 fantastic guests. We have DK from Exquisite Corpse
oh yeah,
Presents
oh yeah.
and Friend Don joining us. Actually, Friend Don is coming back for a second round as his character, who I want to punch in the dick. So it's fantastic.
I have to get them their background information because
Yes, you do.
I'm a good GM, I swear.
You need to, because I cannot wait to see, because DK is playing the person that my character has the biggest heart on to kill for revenge, and I cannot wait to
No,
see how she plays this character.
you want to
So,
fight DK and punch Don.
uh, Obscura is all sorts of like she's cold, with a lot of one-liners, but man, there's fire down in there that is just for them. So
Frag his hard drive.
And speaking of DK, on Saturday night you can catch me over on Exquisite Corpse Presents as Candy, with so much bi panic, so much.
I
And
think
we're
you've gone past the by
exploring.
panic and now you're into the leadership panic,
Yeah,
actually.
that's fair. That's fair. And my older brother-esque character, because we had a very interesting interaction, now rolls a dice and doesn't tell me why for whenever we have an interaction. And that's not terrifying at all.
See,
Yeah,
yeah, she
I don't
says
know.
interaction as in Candy was a right asshole to this character.
Mhm.
It's basically it.
That's what I'm thinking
Candy
about.
So
came
more
out
of
and
a
said, I'm
falling
being
out.
petty, bitch.
Uh,
But
so
then
petty.
on Monday, we have Madness Takes Artena, my 5e homebrew campaign, uh, which they have finally left the city because they're being hunted.
Oh,
And
that's
then,
what was going on.
yes, Kat, what do we have going Tuesday?
Tuesday at 1 p.m., we have Watercolor Wizardry, which is Maria, who's an artist, a fantastic watercolor artist. She runs our game at 4:30 also. But on Watercolor Wizardry, she's doing character art for a lot of our games. This next few weeks, she's doing all of the art for the characters in Chad's game. She did Henri, which is Michael's character, last week. I'm not sure who she's got on deck this week, but she always comes in with like fantastic art and really cool tips. Like I keep learning stuff from her every time I watch the show because I'm like a sort of artist, and it's great. And then at 4:30 is her game that she runs, which is Misguided Magic, which also features Kristen as a player. It's
Yes.
also a great game. They have great RP. So
Oh yes,
So
and
good.
Maria has taken taking a single moment from each game and then at least mildly illustrating it and then putting it to a TikTok sound, and it's
yeah, it's
amazing.
fantastic. She did one with her interaction with Beetlebug at the end of the last game, and it's hysterical. Like the little stuff she does cracks me up. It's great.
And then next Wednesday, I'm not sure who's going to be on. It'll be one of us three or a combination.
Combination. It is
Words are
host
hard,
roulette.
It
Is host roulette on Chaos Curiosities. We will figure it out probably the last minute. That's who we are as people
regardless,
sometimes.
it'll be fun. So thanks everyone for coming out. Also, I've been Kristen because I guess I should introduce myself as well.
What are you new?
And you can find me as Darth Surrealish, mostly on Twitter, occasionally on TikTok and Instagram when I remember I have those platforms. And then lots of on screen time because I stream 6 days a week. So
Oh yeah.
thanks for coming
Yeah.
Unless I
out.
make her take a break.
Thanks, Chad, for coming on. Our man of mystery there.
You're
So
welcome.
And we'll see
mysterious.
you all tomorrow.
Bye.